What's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's pandemic update video. If you're new to my channel and this is the first time you've checked us out, this is where we do our daily update on the COVID-19 pandemic with daily data and news. Starting off here today with India. India records another 5,676 new cases and 21 deaths. That is an increase over yesterday's 14 deaths. So deaths are slowly starting to rise. Not a lot of deaths yet, but they are slowly starting to rise. And the positivity rate is 2.88% over there, which is not terribly high. But again, we are watching these cases, which have been going up in India due to the XBB.1.16 variant. Alright, then we have this. SUNY announces the end of the COVID vaccine mandate. This is the State University of New York. So they are no longer mandating that you need to be vaccinated there. Isn't that just lovely? Then we come to this, and this is some really bad news. Biden ends the COVID national emergency after Congress acts. And probably many of you are wondering, what's my take on this? My take is it should have never happened. Biden said we would not rest until he defeats the pandemic. And guess what? He may think that he defeated COVID. He did not. We still had near 2,000 deaths last week. People are still being hospitalized. People are still testing positive, and long COVID just continues to grow out of control. Do you realize that we probably are over 30 to 35 million people with long COVID in this country now in some form? Some people have it not severe. Some people have it where they are bedridden. And now we're ending a pandemic emergency, which, gave funding to various different things with coronavirus. Now, I don't agree with this at all. Not at all. It should have not ended. And quite frankly, that date that was May 11th, where it was supposed to end, that shouldn't have happened either. It should not be ending. Alrighty, moving on. We now have this. Denver hotel used as emergency shelter during the COVID-19 pandemic, shutting down at the end of April. So there will be no more hotel that you can use for quarantining in Denver if you need to, because the funding's running out for the pandemic, and they are no longer going to support it. So it's ending. It's over with. Then there was this. I thought we would add a little bit of good news. I guess this is good news if you call it that. New Hampshire state population actually grew during the height of the pandemic. Gee, New Hampshire has a lot of rural areas as you get further north into the state. Maybe people want a social distance and get away from the big hustle and bustle of the cities. Neighboring Vermont, their population's actually going up as well. People don't want to deal with the big cities anymore. People want more space. Hopefully it doesn't get overpopulated up there, which is becoming a concern over in Vermont. But yeah, New Hampshire's population is going upward. Alrighty, we have no new COVID outbreaks today, so that's some good news. And if you want more good news, I haven't found, as of yet, this is 4:45 in the afternoon on Tuesday, I have not found any new COVID positives yet. We have no history today in COVID for this date. And moving on to today's update of wastewater. I have it zoomed in on New York City for a reason. We're starting to see a couple sites in New York City rise. Here's one in a Richmond section of New York City. It says County, Richmond. 198,128 people serviced by this watershed, and let's take a look at this. It's starting to go up. There's another one here that I was noting in Kings County. 192,000 people in this one, and it's on the verge of starting to rise. You will see, though, there is some good news out of New York City for today. We'll get to that in just a moment when we get to New York State data. Taking a look here at the latest CDC transmission map, 888 counties are at high transmission. 581 are at substantial. 1,268 are at moderate, and 485 are at low transmission. Moving on to the latest COVID variants. XBB.1.5 is at 88.3%. XBB.1.91 is at 5.1%. XBB.1.51 is at 2.4%. XBB is at 1.9%. And BQ.1.1 is at 1.4%. You still do not see XBB.1.16. We'll have to see if the next update on Friday includes it. Don't get your hopes up. For some reason, they are not adding that variant. I don't know what the deal is, why they're delaying it off so long. moving on to today's latest BNO update. U.S. COVID update, national emergency ends effective immediately, as we reported on, which I really do not agree with. New cases, 7,640. Average is 17,720. That's actually up by 482. States reporting yesterday, 7 out of 50. Remember, most states only update one time a week. And I got alerted to yesterday that Iowa has stopped reporting altogether. So we're not even going to get data out of Iowa anymore. In hospital, 16,211. That's actually down by 664. In ICU, 2,212. That's actually down by 20. New deaths, 70. The average deaths is 258. That's actually down by 4. Taking a look in central Pennsylvania, Center County, Pennsylvania, the only hospital in that county. My bellwether county for the entire state of Pennsylvania. And let's take a look here. Just down to just 3 people hospitalized. So it's continuing to drop. I would like to think that is some really good news. Is that the real number? I don't know. But if it is, that's fantastic that it's dropping. They have no one in the ICU. They have no patients on a ventilator for COVID. And the age of the patients is 65 to 77. Interesting. Only 3 patients in. Look at this. They're all senior citizens. Weren't we supposed to protect the senior citizens? What the heck? Again, it's only 3. Let's take a look at New York State data for today. 446 cases in the last 24 hours. 2.3% positivity. 7-day average is 2%. So today's positivity is higher than the 7-day average. Let's take a look at the statewide number first for hospitalizations. And as you can see here, hospitalizations actually dropped today. 903 people in the hospital, 101 people in the ICU. And here's the other good news. Take a look at New York City. We thought New York City was starting to show signs of a rise. They did rise ever so slightly. Today, they didn't. 263 people in the hospital, 39 people in the ICU. But it's safe to say the overall trend is not down anymore. It's at a leveling. So it's probably just bouncing off the bottom. Eventually, we're going to see somewhat of a rise. How big that rise is going to be, I honestly do not know. So don't ask me, do you think there's going to be a rapid rise? Honestly, I just don't know how big the rise is going to be. We can assume, with XBB 116 entering the picture, that eventually it's going to rise somewhat, but how much? Anyone's guess. All right, Texas will update tomorrow. Here were the latest numbers out of Texas that we have. 6,823 cases last week, 5,379 probable cases. They had 75 deaths reported last week. Their positivity was 8.20%. Their hospitalizations are at 1,131. I hope to have that update in time for tomorrow's video. Sometimes they don't update till almost 6 o'clock, so we'll see. Hopefully we can get that for you tomorrow. Taking a look at the national positivity today, let's refresh this to make sure it's the latest. It is. Okay, just checking. And the national positivity is 23.2% on Walgreens. This is Walgreens data. This is not affiliated with the CDC. This is just testing conducted at Walgreens. Prior week, 25%. That's down 1.8%. If you look here, we had that leveling that was going on. Now we are seeing a pretty significant drop again. But I want to give you a disclaimer. During holiday weekends, people tend to get tested less for PCR testing. So you're seeing here a significant drop in the number of PCR testing. But at the same time, the positivity continued to drop. That's a good thing that the positivity dropped. It's a bad thing that the testing dropped. Let's take a look at some states, shall we? Maine continues its drop. Maine is now down to 13.8%. Remember just about 7 or 8 days ago, Maine was at 45%. This is an incredible drop. I mean, I hope it's legitimate. Look at this. I mean, it went straight up, and then it went straight down. It's like they had the world's fastest wave ever. It's like that. Light switch, back down again. And it's still showing signs of dropping, but it is slowing ever so slightly. We'll have to see how low it goes. This is, I mean, truly remarkable. Coming over here to Vermont, Vermont at 27.3%. Vermont continues to go straight up. So it's really a mixed picture in New England. That's an increase of 10.6% over the previous week's 16.7%. Total test, 11. But let me give you a disclaimer. I can give you a disclaimer on Vermont. I know someone who's a friend of someone who tested positive in Vermont, right? Well, they weren't the only one to test positive from this meeting. 14 people at the meeting tested positive, from what I was told. That's more than the total number of tests being conducted statewide at Walgreens. It just shows you, testing is absolutely terrible in this country. Let's take a look at Pennsylvania, shall we? Pennsylvania, 19% positivity. Prior week, 16.4%. Yes, that's a difference of up 2.6% over this time last week. However, it is now dropping, which is some good news. It peaked all the way up at 24.5%. Going back to New England real quickly, take a look here at Massachusetts. Massachusetts is still rising, 22.2%. Prior week, 15.7%. Difference of 6.5%. And if you look at the chart, it is still going up. Coming down here to South Carolina. South Carolina, looks like they have peaked, though they are significantly higher from this time last week. 25% this week, 17.4% at this time last week. Difference of upward of 7.6%. Coming down here to Alabama. Alabama is continuing to rise. Their rise is actually getting a little bit faster now. 23.3%. Prior week, 16.3%. That's a difference of up 7% with 10 tests more than last week. 133 this week, 123 last week. How about Florida? Our spring break state. 26.4% this week, 28.5% last week. That's a difference of down 2.1%. Arkansas, we've been watching Arkansas. They're still rising, though slowing off slightly. 35.1% this week, 21.3% last week at this time, and that's a difference of up 13.9%. Utah positivity is starting to rise again, which is interesting, because if you recall, about a month ago, the wastewater sites in Utah were going bonkers with moderate to high levels of COVID. And then Walgreens dropped. But Walgreens never really had a big rise. Now they're starting to. So we'll see if the wastewater starts to rise again in Utah soon. 18.3% positivity this week. 14.6% last week. Difference of 3.7% upward, but there is a disclaimer here. Look at testing. 180 tests this week. 239 last week. I think this could be a testing-related rise. We'll see, though. Oregon positivity, 13.9% this week, 10.1% last week, difference of up 3.9%. And I want to include Hawaii today. Hawaii is rising. Look at this chart. It's rapidly rising, so it's still going up significantly. 25.9% this week, prior week 20%, difference of 5.9%. Okay, 27 tests this week versus 50 tests last week. Yes, testing's down, but they don't do a lot of testing. And this, if you look at the chart, like I said, it looks to be rapidly going up. It was at 11.1% just not too long ago. So the fact that they are a major tourist destination, that signals that they are seeing probably a legitimate rise, maybe from one of the new variants. Let's move on to international data. South Korea, cases up 5%, deaths down 12%. Russia, cases down 16%, deaths up 9%. Japan, cases up 15%. Deaths down 30%. France, cases down 11%. Deaths down 40%. India, cases still up 79%. Deaths up 65%. New Zealand, look at this. Cases are down 0.6%. Deaths are now up 131%. That's concerning. Then you come down here to, where do I want to do next? Siberia. Cases down 12%, deaths up 75%. Belgium, cases down 65%, deaths down 63%. Saudi Arabia, cases are up 43%, deaths are up 100%. They didn't have very many deaths to begin with, 4 versus 2, so that's why it's 100%. And we'll do one last one. Cyprus, cases are up 31%, deaths are down 75%. Alrighty, that does it for today's pandemic update video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button down below. I will see you all again next time. But until I see you again next time, test negative, don't test positive, and stay safe, everyone. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.